persons have died and several others injured following the collapse of a story building at Ndokuti here in the economic capital Douala, and students of the University of Buea today grounded lectures on campus. They are demanding, amongst other things, the withdrawal of the case opposing some members of the student union in the campus of the University of Buea, and the duo for the Njombe Pinja Council, who was sent on retirement at the age of 44, has simply been reinstated. This is the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Good evening to you viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the news on Equinox Television. We begin right away with scores of shops that have been reduced into ashes at the Betua Central Market following a fire incident that occurred in that part of the country. Reports say the flames resulted from poor electrical connections, but as Staff Lady Anabila tells us in the following report, the rate of damage would have been managed if the town had a firefighting brigade. Her report.
Business persons in the town of Betua are still counting their losses after the contents of over 15 shops were consumed by ravaging flames. The incident began at about 11 p.m. when the traders had already closed their shops. The actual cause of the fire has not yet been established. Eyewitnesses say the flames began after sparks were spotted from a tailoring workshop. Fire incidents have been recurrent in markets in Betua, and the situation is made worse with the absence of a firefighting brigade. The material and financial losses incurred in this fire disaster is estimated at millions of francs CFA.
Like we announced in the headlines, 3 persons are confirmed dead and several others wounded following the collapse of a story building at Ndokoti here in the economic capital Douala. Reports say the structure was already in a state of dilapidation. Details by Babla Jonathan.
This is part of the one-story building that has killed 3 persons. According to witnesses, it collapsed at about 7 p.m. on a church Tuesday. The 3 victims include a pregnant woman and her son, who were living in the upper section of the building, and a member of the church. The pastor of the church reportedly asked Christians to move out of the church house when he noticed that the building could collapse. One of the Christians, a young man said to be a pianist, later went back into the church house to get his piano when the building collapsed on him. It took several hours for firefighters to extract the latter's mortal remains from debris. Unofficial sources say the building in the Ndokoti neighborhood in Douala, littoral region of Cameroon, had been existing for about 20 years. Few meters away from this place, we saw another building in the same state. Parts of the building are already falling off, yet on one of the doors it is written, "De Chambre à louer," that is, 2 rooms to let. On the upper section, there are indications of human occupation, despite its dilapidated state.
And the relatives or family members of the Cameroonian transporter who was killed by uniformed men in the Central African Republic are now preparing on how to carry out the funeral of the deceased. The remains of the Cameroonian transporter who was killed in that part of the continent is now lying at the military hospital mortuary in Bonanjo here in the economic capital Douala. The corpse of Elvis Boudele arrived at the Douala International Airport this afternoon and was escorted by the personal advisor to the Minister of Interior in the Central African Republic. We hear there was no Cameroonian authority to accompany the mortal remains of the Cameroonian transporter as earlier previewed, and family sources had earlier confirmed that the repatriation of the corpse was due to some administrative procedure. Shall be keeping you updated on that actuality in our subsequent newscast. Meantime, at least 5 security guards on the campus of the University of Buea have sustained severe injuries following a standoff that unfolded with students this morning. And students went on rampage demanding the holding of the University of Buea Student Union elections and also an increase on the financial or in the financial motivation they would receive after the march past on May 20th, 2013. They also said they want the administration to withdraw the case against some student leaders that is pending at the Buea Court of First Instance up to now, and movements in and out of the campus of the University of Buea was simply grounded. And also the due for the Njombe Penja Council, like we equally announced in the headlines, Jibaye, who was prematurely sent on retirement, has simply been reinstated. A recent presidential decree signed by Head of State Paul Biya that was on April 22nd, 2013, saw him being sent on retirement at the age of 44. He was yesterday appointed as DO for the Kumba Free Council, that is in the southwest region of Cameroon. Now we take you to the central region of the country to talk about deliberations that have continued today as the ongoing first ever session of the Senate continued in that part of the country at the Glass House in Waikele. And just to add that, the chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Nijon Fundi, received in audience the Sultan of Bamun after the opening of the plenary session yesterday. That was not the only CPDM senator that Nijon Fundi, the SDF chair, received at his Omispo residence, and he took time, or he seized the opportunity to advise SDF senators to serve the Cameroonian population. Details with Roland Ako.
The chairman of the SDF party receives the Sultan of the Bamun at his Omispo residence after the opening plenary of the Senate. Sultan Ibrahim Bombonjoya says he came at the invitation of the SDF chairman Nijon Fundi. The chairman admits he invited the Sultan to share with him during the reception offered to his 14th Senate. The Sultan is an influential CPDM supporter in the West region, where supporters of the party cast their votes in favor of the SDF, which grabbed all the 7 seats of the Senate in the region. The chairman also received the Lamido of Tigné from the Adamawa region. The SDF party grabbed all the 7 seats of the Senate in the Adamawa. The senatorial reception at Chairman Fundi's Yaoundé residence was aimed at giving the party's blessings to the 14 senators to go and serve the people.
I've come to congratulate them and wish them well and success in their deliberations in the senatorial house, and to tell them that they should take note that is the party investing and sending them to Senate. They are not going in their individual capacities. So they have to listen to the instructions and the directives of the party. Cameroonians voted them to go in as senators, and that their service should be geared towards serving the Cameroonian people.
MPs, top officials and supporters of the party witnessed the event.
Roland Akon there reporting in Yaoundé Central region of the country, and today, May 15th, 2013, marks the opening of the Scientific Research Day in Cameroon. Deliberations in the Central region of the country were centered on the working conditions of researchers and also the way forward. Roland Akon, once again, a Yaoundé-based correspondent, witnessed the event that was chaired by the Minister of Scientific Research and Innovation, and now tells us more.
This procession by Cameroonian scientific researchers marks the solemn opening of the Scientific Research Year in Cameroon, a new concept which we organize annually. During the occasion, scientific researchers reflect on the conditions of scientific research and innovation in Cameroon.
The challenges are many, but the immediate ones are having the Cameroonian researchers in place, having enough funding for research, having enough funding for research infrastructure, that's laboratories, the policy for researchers, is as old as, I think, since 1980, and that one is no longer in accordance with what happened.
Scientific researchers also look at the perspectives of research and innovation in the country.
The human resources are there. They need proper utilization and training to enable that. They need proper equipment. They need proper working conditions to do that. Otherwise, we'll continue to have them even trained in our universities and they move abroad.
Recognition is also given to researchers promoted during the 2012 year.
Now, examiners in Douala say no major hitches were recorded during the common entrance examinations and also the concours d'entrée en sixième, which took place across the country today. Thousands of pupils turned out at the various examination centers here in the economic capital Douala to sit in for the end-of-year exams. And teachers of the Bibamba Center here in the economic capital Douala said correction of the various scripts of all the pupils would kick off tomorrow. Meanwhile, the cost price of female condoms has been reduced to 100 francs CFA for free packets, and the move by the government is to make it more accessible and affordable to women. Roland Akong tells us more in the following report.
Respondents in a random vox pop on the use of the female condom say they do not use the condom because of its complexity. The government attributes the low rate of the use of the female condom on its accessibility. Reason why the government has decided to reduce the cost of the female condom to 100 francs a packet of 3 instead of one female condom at 100 francs CFA.
I am pleased to announce that with the support of donors and in agreement with the government of Cameroon, the price of the female condom has been divided by 3. Henceforth, with FCFA 100, we will receive a pack of 3 female condoms.
43% is the 2011 prevalence rate of HIV/AIDS in Cameroon, and women are worse hit compared to men.
This prevalence was 5.6% among women and 2.9% among men. This reveals the vulnerability of women to the pandemic.
It is believed that the rate will drop if women use the female condom.
Now we talk sports football. Before we go, the interim head coach of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, Jean-Paul Akono, has published the list of 25 players ahead of their friendly encounter against Ukraine that is built for June 2nd, 2013. And for Hansen Chanji, went through the list of 25 of Jean-Paul Akono and compiled the following report.
The list contains the names of regulars, newcomers, and the return of midfielder Eno Eyong-Takang, who has been out of the Lions' den for quite some time. The confidence conferred to him by Jean-Paul Akono after years in the court is definitely his outstanding performance in Fulham, a club where he is on loan from Ajax of Amsterdam. Another player announced for a return is Paul Alue-Fulu. Newcomer and 24-year-old Louis Raoul Cedric will find himself at the midfield. He plies his professional trade with Osasuna in Spain. A full list of the 25 Indomitable Lions include goalkeepers Charles Tanji, Louis Fidje, and Njok Sami. Defenders comprise of Benoit Ngba, Henri Bedimo, Benoit Suekoto, Nicolas Nkolu, Jean-Amé Kanambiik, Leonard Kweke, and Aurélien Cheju. The midfielders include Jean Demakun, Eno Eyong-Takang, Stéphane Biya, Alexander Song, and Louis Raoul Cedric. The forwards include Samuel Etofis, Alou Paul Efulu, Benjamin Mukanjo, Andoncho Mathieu Mbuta, Yannick Njeng, Fabrice Olinga, and Vincent Aboubakar. The players will assemble in France on May 29, 2013, before traveling to Kiev for their friendly game against Ukraine. They will later play the Hawks of Togo on May 9 and the Democratic Republic of Congo on May 16 for their return league matches for Brazil 2014 World Cup qualifiers, where Cameroon lie top of Group I with 6 points. The interim coach Jean-Paul Akono has, however, been criticized by officials of the Cameroon Football Federation for not following the right procedure before publishing the 25-man list. Fecafoot has argued that the list was supposed to be forwarded to the Federation for subsequent publication.
For Hanson Chanji ending that report, and that does it for this segment of the news. Time for us to welcome our guest. Good evening to you once again, viewers, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We are going to be talking about the common entrance examinations that the students that took place across the country today, and we have a teacher, an educationist, and also a school proprietor, Professor Mr. Samuel Ngube. Good evening, and thanks indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mimi.
Like earlier indicated, we are going to be talking about the common entrance examinations that took place across the country today. Precisely the case of Douala. You probably visited some of the examination centers across the city, particularly some of your schools as well. So could we find out how did the examination exercise, how did it go in some of the centers you visited?
I think in some of the centers, as you said, I visited, the common entrance examination this year went on smoothly. Although we had a lot of late coming from parents bringing their children from different centers a little bit late. I think they were accommodated, they were later accommodated in most of the centers, and where my children, my students, my pupils were writing at Bibamba, and I think at that area everything, the atmosphere was calm, was good, and it started at around 8 o'clock. Everything was set up. I think there was a good smooth running of the common entrance this year around the nation, because at this very moment, at this very present time, there is no major incident that has been recorded. So we think that everything has moved on well smoothly this year.
There was actually a similar reports that reporters who went on the field gathered from other examiners. So how prepared were your pupils ahead of the exams?
I think we did everything. We started the preparation since September 2012, and with the syllabuses and the schemes of work put in place by the Ministry of Basic Education, we did everything to make sure that the students or the pupils are up to the task right down to this date that they were writing the common entrance examination. Although the major problem we're facing in education today, you see, the pupils are really below age of this class 6 that we have in presently, and it causes a lot of problems for the teachers to go into the details of their objectives, or to go into the main details of their objectives, because the pupils are not really of the age. If you look at example, you see pupils of 8, 9 years doing class 6. So it becomes very, very difficult for the teachers to give a very good input. And this is because for sometimes in those days, parents, they used to talk about poverty being the main factor of this major problem. But as soon as we are neglecting the situation in most of our schools, not recruiting children or pupils of good age in our schools or standard age in our schools, we're going to be having difficulties in most of our official examinations. And as I said earlier, the Ministry of Basic Education doesn't take in consideration that maybe we're having in class 6 people of lower ages of 8, 9, 10 years.
Contrary to the past when classes or primary schools had up to class 7. And there are also reports of how the number of subjects have equally increased in the primary schools today.
Yeah, it's not even the matter of a number of subjects increased, but it's the matter of it's the matter of the age, the age children that we're having in class 6.
So why
because
did
the objectives,
why did they change? Why the change of from class 7 to class 6?
I think
the writing of
I think
common
it was.
entrance and the first school living certificate?
I think it was to normalize the situation in between the Francophone, the subsystem, Francophone subsystem and the Anglophone subsystem. You know, in those days, we were having the class 7 pupils, and the Francophone subsystem was having a 6-year course. So I think the government found it necessary to normalize the system, being a bilingual country or being a one country. I think that was the problem. They had to normalize the system to bring down the class 7 of those days and to have a 6-year course in primary school. So, but that doesn't matter about the system that we're having today. The problem, the main problem, as I said, that we're facing is the age children that we're having into those classes, because the children are not of the age to face the objectives that the Ministry of Basic Education has put in place in class 6, at the level of class 6. And as far as we're going to have children of lower ages in these classes, we're not really going to boast of good results or good standard of education
So what could
at
be
that
done
level.
now? Do we, because there's no way for the government to bring it back to class 7, since we're in a
Yes.
bilingual system, and the Anglophone system of education is trying to meet up with the French-speaking education system as well.
Yes.
So could it be that maybe some recommendations, like some analysts are proposing, that maybe the problem is at the level of the age group of students
Exactly.
that get into class 1?
Yeah.
Could that not be the problem as well?
And that is where we have to start. Not even in class 1, we have to start from the nursery school. Because you see, the level of the nursery school children, like pre-nursery, is 3 years in Cameroon. But you see, in most of our nursery schools, we're having children less than 3 years. Because if we have children of 3 years or 3 years plus in the pre-nursery, automatically, at the level of nursery 2, we're going to have a children or a group of people of 5 years. And we're going to have, at that level of primary school, a group of people starting the primary school at 6 years, which is a normal age. And then we're going to have in class 6 a group of people of 12, which is a normal standard of people achieving good goals or achieving good objectives at that level of our primary course. But if the level or the group ages of the children we're having in our primary school is not rectified, we're going to face a lot of problems.
Because at this stage, most parents content themselves with their children just passing and not the content, like
Exactly.
the quality of their what
The level is not there.
The level is not high.
Exactly.
The level is not actually not high.
Exactly.
So let's come back to the common entrance examinations that were written today, and it is paving the way for them to get into Form 1 colleges and also public schools in the country. So would it be advisable for a parent to send a child in Form 1 if the child fails the common entrance examinations?
I don't think so. I think if a child fails the common entrance examination, which is an assessment that maybe sends the child into the secondary school, that child is advised to repeat the class 6 work. It means that the child, we are assessing children entering in secondary schools in our country, we're assessing in mathematics and English language. So if a child can't make it up in mathematics and English language, which are the main basic subjects either in secondary school or in primary school, we advise the parents, or I do advise these parents, to make the children repeat the class 6.
The first school living certificate makes up for everything.
No, the first school living certificate doesn't mix up the standard of the secondary school level. That is why they are being accessed in English language and in mathematics, which are the main subjects even at the level of the secondary school. So a child might pass the first school living certificate and fail the common entrance examination. But for that child to have a good level of secondary school, I think it is really advised to the parents to make the child repeat the class 6 exam, the class 6 course for the second time. And I think the following year, the child is going to look better in the secondary school level.
Thanks indeed, Mr. Samuel Ngube, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, my friend.
And to you viewers, we thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Good evening and have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs.